Hello everybody, this is Mark Guillermo of 413 Media Group, and for today we have a 413 review of a sparring session between a Kendo practitioner and an Eskrima practitioner, and I'll be giving you some insights, analysis, and critiques. I'm sure many of you guys know what a samurai is, which probably means you know what Kendo is. But for those of you who don't know, let me offer a brief explanation. First off, let me explain the word Kendo. Ken means sword, do is the way or the path. So basically the path of the sword or swordsmanship. Now the samurai up to a certain point realized that probably it's a better idea to use bamboo swords and armor in order to not kill each other. Sparring partners were just as expensive back then as they are now. Now, just like Filipino martial arts, the samurai also had a bunch of different sword techniques, sword schools, sword styles, and they couldn't really practice against each other. So using these bamboo swords and armor, they were able to practice against other styles in other Ken dojo. Now, in today's modern day and age, not only can they do that, but they can also test it out against a vastly different weapon-based martial art, such as Eskrima. And that's exactly what these guys did. Let's check it out.
So we see here the Kendoka is using typical standard Kendo armor, while the Eskrimador is using a fencing helmet and very minimal armor while using double sticks. At this point, the Kendoka goes into a Jodan no Kamae, which the Eskrimador brilliantly blocks and counters. Notice that after every strike, the Kendoka resets into a Chudan no Kamae, which is the middle or neutral stance, the most standard stance in Kendo today, which is considered to be neutral in defense and offensive states. Now take a look at the feet of the Kendoka. When he goes into a Jodan no Kamae, he switches from a right foot lead to a left foot lead, so he can get more distance traveled with one strike. Even though you'll see almost all Kendoka practice with only one sword, there are actually a few who do something called nitou-ryuu, which is a two-sword style. Right here, the Eskrimador does something that I think baffles the Kendoka. He did a scissor block going down to set up his head and open it up for strikes, although I don't think that was such a clear strike. Oh well.
I thought that was a wonderful sparring session. I'm sure that they both not only learned a great deal about each other's styles, but also about their own styles. They get to see firsthand what works and what doesn't, depending on the situation, of course. Now, I'm assuming for the sake of safety, they had a lot of compromises between the rules of these systems. For example, I'm sure they did not allow the Kendoka to use tsuki or thrusting techniques. Why? Because the Eskrimador doesn't have a throat guard, just like a Kendo practitioners. This is the men or the helmet, and right here is the throat guard where you can thrust. Now, as you can see, it's a very small target. So it's actually very dangerous, and only high-level practitioners of Kendo are allowed to perform this in tournament settings. Why did I mention the thrusting thing? Is it going to make a difference? Massive. Because if we look at the difference in the size of the weapons, the shinai and the Eskrima stick are very different in length. Look at the massive difference here. Can't even fit it into frame. This is a standard length shinai, standard length for Eskrima stick. With this length, if you were to thrust, you can cover a lot of distance, meaning the Eskrimador can't get close if thrusts were allowed. And I believe that it's actually a big weakness for anyone using two-handed techniques where they're doing stuff like the Sinawali, Heaven and Earth and whatnot. Even though it is very confusing, and we saw the Eskrimador using a lot of circular flowing movements like that with the double stick, it was more of like to confuse the opponent. And if the Kendoka just did a tsuki, he would have scored right away. So that, I think, is a massive advantage for the Kendoka. Now, a surprise surprising thing that I didn't see on the Eskrima side is he did not use the same thing, the length of the weapon, to his advantage. He had 2 sticks, but he had shorter sticks, which means if he got in really close, he could use corto or close range techniques, and because the sticks are shorter, they are much more maneuverable in a closer, tighter distance, but at the same time, it jams the Kendoka's weapon because it's longer. So while jamming the opponent, he is able to deliver a flurry of strikes. Didn't see that though. Perhaps the Eskrima is much more used to a largo or medio range. Now I know what you're thinking. The Eskrima person won. The Kendoka won. The Eskrima won because he used 1 stick to block and the other stick to strike. The Kendoka won because if this was a sword match and he was just to thrust the opponent, yeah, but if that was the case, then most likely the Eskrima had 2 bolos. But it's not fair to have 2 weapons. Yeah, but the weapons are shorter. Stop. There is really no point on finding out who won in this match because it doesn't really matter who won in this fight, because these 2 styles focus on completely different aspects when training and sparring. In Eskrima tournaments, especially the ones that I participate in, they focus a lot more on who dealt the most damage. In Kendo, however, it's about who did the most elegant, efficient, and best technique. Just to compare the tournament formats, in Eskrima, you have 3 rounds, 1 minute each, and it's continuous, similar to boxing, where you just keep hitting and try to deal as much damage as possible. At the end of each round, the judges score you on a 10-point must system on who dealt more damage. Now in Kendo, it's 1 round and generally only 2 minutes long, and it's a maximum of 2 points. After each successful point, you do a reset. In Eskrima, your targets are from knee all the way up to the head. Anywhere you can hit the elbow, the forearm, the shoulder. In Kendo, you might accidentally hit those parts. You could even hit it intentionally, but there are only 4 main targets, which is the top of the head, the throat, the kote or the wrists, not even the hand, the wrists, and specifically the right wrist, and also the do, or the torso, and not even the front of the torso, it's more of the side of the torso. So these are very, very specific 4 targets compared to Eskrima. Also, for those of you who are completely unfamiliar with how Kendo is scored, in order to successfully gain 1 point, you have to have ki, ken, tai, ichi. Ki means mind, ken is sword, tai is body, and ichi means 1. Your mind, sword, and body has to be 1. What does that mean? With ki, your mind, spirit, or your feeling or intent, usually represented with a kiai or the yell, has to be really loud. It has to show the judges and your opponent that you are clearly delivering this strike with purpose. That's why you'll hear that they yell out where they're gonna be hitting. So when you're aiming for the head, you yell out men, which is literally the head. You're saying head. Ken, meaning sword, really represents the sword technique, which is very important because the shinai represents a sword. So if you look at the shinai again, there is a string, and this actually represents the back of the sword. So if you don't have the correct hasuji or the blade orientation, you're hitting to the side like this, or you're hitting completely on the back, they will not score that. Also, if you're not hitting with this part, you're not gonna score the point. If you're just hitting here, yes, you can cut with a real sword, but you're not cutting efficiently, so you don't get the point. Now, lastly, tai means body or the posture in which you're doing the technique. Also, it could refer to footwork, like the fumikomi or the stomping footwork that you do while you're striking. All of that is part of tai or the body posture. If 1 or more of them are not present, it doesn't count as a point. Now I know that was pretty long, but I feel like I had to explain how Kendo is scored so that you really understand what is the focus when they are doing a lot of these keiko or sparring sessions in Kendo. I think as Filipino martial artists, we can learn a lot from other martial arts, just like this one in Kendo, such as Kiken Tai Ichi. I think the real point of this sparring session that you saw was simply to become more open-minded. I'm sure that for some of you who have training for a long time, when you do the same thing over and over again, like the same drills, for example, you start to kind of get bored and you lose the creativity and the excitement that came with learning something new. But when you mix it up like this and spar with a vastly different martial art, you can learn so much in a very short amount of time. And so I highly encourage that you do cross-training with other martial arts and other schools, other styles. Filipino martial arts, there's so many different styles out there. Although I do recommend that you train a lot in your style first before venturing out and seeking cross-training with other styles and schools and systems. Also, please remember that when you're doing cross-training like this, be extremely respectful of your sparring partner, their school, their instructor, their style, their culture, because that's just what people should do. That way, they invite you over next time, give you some food, and maybe a place to sleep in. That sounds really nice, right? Rather than bickering about, oh, my style is better. Now, let's just love each other and respect each other. Alright guys, thank you for watching all the way up to this point. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of that Kendo versus Eskrima sparring clip that you just saw. And let me know if you like these Filipino martial arts versus another martial art videos, and I'll be producing more. And even if you don't tell me, I will probably make some more. Please like, share, and subscribe. And since you're already doing that, please click the notification bell below so that you get notified as quickly as possible of our upcoming videos. And before you guys go, let me remind you again of the upcoming Filipino martial arts tournament called the Battle of the Bayani, which will be held in Oxnard, California on March 2nd, 2019. It'll be featuring the live stick armored continuous fighting and also the padded engagement fighting per Global Stick and Blade Alliance rules, and also featuring the Akustrike knife division, the ones that light up, pew pew pew. We are now open for early bird registration all the way until February 2nd, and with the early bird registration you get a free limited edition tournament t-shirt and also $75 for unlimited divisions. So awesome, right? Now for more information and to register, go to 413group.net/Bayani. It's gonna be around here. Click it. It's gonna be awesome. We'll see you guys there. Man, I can't really swing. I feel like I'm gonna break the camera. Should I test the Kendo versus Eskrima stuff myself? Let me know in the comment sections. Ciao!